Previously, we looked at the introduction part of probability, where we described the various terms that are used in probability. So we want to look at how do we describe a chance. A chance is simply the probability of an event happening. So we are talking about what is the probability of this event happening. So we are having some terms that we use when we describe the probability of an event happening. The words that are used mostly So these are some of the words that we use when we are describing the likeliness of an event happening. So the first word, that is certain, is used when you are completely sure that the event is going to take place. So this one is used when you are sure the event is going to take place. For instance, in cases whereby you are rolling a die, you are completely sure that there is a possibility of getting a number that is less than 7, because a die that is 6-sided has 6 sides, and these 6 sides are labeled 1 to 6. So if I'm having a die that is having a probability space of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, then we are being asked about the probability of getting a number that is less than 7. So meaning any of the numbers, if I roll this die, any of the numbers that is less than 7 is likely to appear. So it means you are very certain. It is very possible that you can get a number that is less than 7. So we use certain when you are completely sure that the event is going to take place. Then we use likely when there are higher chances of that event taking place. So in this case, we are not very much sure that the event will take place, but there are higher chances of that event taking place. Then another word that we have is unlikely. We use unlikely where there are very minimal chances of that event taking place. If the event that we are projecting has very minimum chances of it taking place, then we say that the event is unlikely to happen. Then we have impossible. An event is simply impossible when you are sure that it is not going to take place. So when you are sure the event is not going to take place, then we say that the event is impossible. For instance, while we are talking about rolling a die, we are very much sure that there is no way we will get a number that is more than 6 when we are rolling a die. So if we are asked the probability of getting a number that is more than 6 in rolling a die that is 6-sided, then we know that that event is impossible. So this one we are sure. And finally, we have even chance. Even chances is whereby the event have equal opportunities of taking place. So when we are having equal opportunities, when we have equal opportunities for that event to take place, then we say the event has an even chance. For instance, when you are tossing a die, a die has two sides, the head and the tail. So when you are tossing a die, the probability of getting a head is 1/2. Probability of getting a tail is also 1/2. So what do we mean? That the two events that are taking place when we are tossing a die have an even chance of occurring because they all have equal opportunities for them to occur. So we say they have even chances of occurring. So those are some of the words that we use when we are describing a chance that has occurred. So we can use words to describe a chance that has occurred, and those are some of the words that are used when describing chances that have occurred. In that connection, we can look at some questions that require us to reason out what is the chance of an event happening. So we have the question that we are supposed to match each of the following events from A to D with a description of how likely they are to occur. So the first question we have is a tossed coin landing heads up. So when you are tossing a coin, we already know that the probability space of a coin is 2. That is a head and a tail. So having that as the probability space, then we know that the probability of getting a head, we've already said, is 1/2. Probability of getting a tail is also 1/2. So the question is asking us, we describe the likeliness of getting a head when the coin is tossed. So we are having the likeliness of getting this head. Looking at it, getting a head, getting a tail, they all have the same opportunities for them to occur. So we say in this case, there is an even chance. So we have an even chance of getting heads up when we toss that coin. The second question So we are being asked, we describe what is the likeliness of selecting an S first try from a fair deck of 52 playing cards. So you're having 52 playing cards that you have to deal with. And from this 52 playing card, from your first try, you pick an S. What is the possibility? It is there is almost a possibility of not picking that S. The possibility of picking an S is very minimum. So since the possibility of picking an S is very minimum, because the cards are 52 and you have to pick an S on your first try. So it means there are very minimum chances of picking this S. So since the chances of picking the S are minimum, we say that this event is very unlikely to happen. So being the fact that there are very minimum chances of us picking that S, so we describe the event as an unlikely event that can take place. So the other question is, we are supposed to describe the likeliness of obtaining a number other than 6 if a fair die is rolled. So a fair die that is 6-sided, we've already said has 6 sides. So being 6 sides, they are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we are being asked, what is the possibility of getting the rest of the other numbers but not 6? So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we are not getting the 6. So any other number other than 6. So it means the rest of the numbers other than 6. What does it mean? That there are very high chances of us rolling this die and getting a 1, getting a 2, getting a 1 or a 2 or a 3, a 4 or a 5. It is very much possible. So meaning, since the possibility of getting these other numbers is high, we are having very high chances of getting the other numbers when we roll this die, then we say this event is very likely to happen. The other question we have is, we are supposed to describe the likeliness of obtaining a number that is greater than 8 if a fair die is rolled. So we know that a fair die has 6 sides labeled 1 to 6. So having a number that is more than 8 is not going to happen. So since the event, we are very much sure that it cannot take place, we are sure the event is not going to take place. So it means in describing this probability or this chance, we are simply going to say that this event is an impossible event. So question 2, we are asked to fill in the blanks using the appropriate terminology. So the first question we have, if an event is guaranteed to happen, so we say it is. If it is guaranteed it will happen, we've said it is a certain event. Then an event that is equally likely to occur or not occur, we say has an even chance of occurring. Another question that we need to fill with an appropriate terminology is So other questions that we need to fill with an appropriate terminology is a rare event is considered. So we are having a very rare event. So a rare event, we refer to it as it is considered to be a very unlikely event. So it is rare, so we mean it is unlikely. Then we have an event that will never occur, is called an impossible event. So those are some of the terminologies we use when describing a chance that has occurred. Maybe one more question on the terminologies that we use. So question 3, we are being asked to consider a fair six-sided die with numbers 1 to 6. So we are supposed to answer if the statements below are either true or false. So the first statement we have is rolling a 3 is unlikely. So we are having a fair six-sided die. What does it mean? All the sides have equal chances of occurring. So we are having 6 sides. And out of these sides, 6 sides, we are being asked, what is the possibility of rolling a 3? So we find that there are 6 sides. The possibility of rolling a 3 is very minimal. It is not like it is automatic that when you roll, you'll get a 3. No. There are minimal chances. There are possibilities of either getting those other numbers. We can get a 1, a 2, a 4, 5, and 6. Rolling a 3 specifically, yes, there are chances of it occurring, but the chances are very minimal. So we are being asked, rolling a 3 is unlikely. So we find that since the chances of getting that 3 is minimum, so having a minimum chance, then it means this statement is true. Then rolling a 3 will be unlikely, because we said unlikely is used when we are having very minimum chances of that event occurring. So we say that the first statement is true. The second statement we are having is rolling a 5 is likely. So if in the first chance, just getting one of the numbers is not that possible, it is not automatic. So since it is not, the chances of getting the 5 is not very high, we have very minimum chances of getting the 5, then meaning using the term likely is wrong. So meaning the statement rolling a 5 is likely is a false statement. The next one we are having rolling a 4 and rolling a 5 are equally likely events. So you are having rolling a 4 and rolling a 5. This means we need to find what is the possibility of rolling a 4, what is the possibility of rolling a 5. And we get that probability of rolling a 4 is, we have one chance of one favorable chance for rolling a 4 out of a total of 6. Then possibility of rolling a 5 is also 1/6. So we find that the two of them have equal chances of occurring. So since rolling a 5 and rolling a 4 have equal chances of occurring, then we are simply saying rolling a 4 and rolling a 5 are equally likely events is a true statement. So this one is true. So we're still looking at a fair six-sided die, and we have to tell if this one is true or false. So the next statement we are having, rolling an even number is likely. So we need to find out from this fair die which numbers are even and which ones are not. So we are having the numbers 1 to 6. So out of these numbers, we need to identify what are even numbers. So even number is a number that is divided by 2. So we look for the numbers that can be divided by 2. So we have 2 itself, we have 4, then we have 6. We find that the chances of this even number occurring is 3. So we are having 3 chances for them occurring, 3 favorable chances. So we have 3 out of a total of 6 numbers. This is just the same as 1 over 2 if I simplify that fraction. So the statement is rolling an even number is likely. Likely, we say, is used when the chances of it occurring is very high. So looking at this, the possibility of getting an even number is about a half, or it is a half. So meaning this event happening is very much, it has a high chance of it occurring. It is very much possible that you can get an even number in the process of you rolling this die. So what does it mean? That this statement is simply a true statement. Then next we have, there is an even chance of rolling odd number. So we need to find out what are these odd numbers. And odd numbers are simply numbers that cannot be divided by 2. So the numbers that are there and cannot be divided fully by 2. So we refer to them as odd numbers. So the odd numbers we have in this case, there are also 3 of them. So we are having 3 odd numbers. So being 3 odd numbers, then it means its probability will be the same as that one of even numbers. So being the same, then it means this statement will also be a true statement, because it is very likely that you can roll this die and get a 1. It is very likely you can roll this die and get a 3. It is very likely that you can roll this die and get a 5. Then the last statement we are having here is there is an even chance of rolling a multiple of 3. So what are these multiples of 3? Multiples of 3, if this is the number we have, that is 3, we need to get the multiples of 3. So 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3, that is 9, 3 times 4, we get 12, and so on. So these are the multiples of 3 we have. Then we find out which multiples of 3 are occurring on our die. So on our die, we are only having 3 and 6 as the multiples of 3 that are available. So 3 and 6, if we get the probability from our experiment or from our chance experiment, that is rolling a die. So probability of getting a multiple, or probability of rolling a multiple of 3, we can have, there are only 2 chances of getting a multiple of 3. So we have 2 out of 6. So this means this is only 1 over 3. So the chance of getting a multiple of 3 is very minimum. And since the chance of getting a multiple of 3 is very minimum, then we will not be referring to it as an even chance. But in this case, this is an unlikely event that can happen. So we say that since they have used even chance in the statement, then our statement is automatically false. So what do we say? When we are describing a chance using words, then at times it makes the statement very vague. If I tell somebody that it is unlikely that I may come tomorrow, then it makes it a very vague statement. It leaves the person with a lot of questions to answer. The person will not be very much sure of whatever is going to happen that day. So it is important, or for us to get to know exactly the possibility of that event happening, then we have to use this spinor proportion. So with spinor proportion, whatever is happening is, instead of describing a chance using words, you now go ahead and describe a chance using a fraction or a decimal or a percentage, stating what is the fraction of whatever is expected to be done, or what is the percentage of whatever is expected to be done. So with spinor proportion, we are expressing our probability as either a fraction So we can express the probability as either a fraction, a decimal, or a percentage. So this brings us back to the knowledges of our knowledge on fraction, decimal, and percentages. It means we have to get to have the knowledge of fraction, knowledge of a decimal, and knowledge of what a percentage is in order for us to go ahead and calculate. So this is just a review of the fraction, whereby when you're given a fraction and you're asked maybe to convert the fraction to the decimal or simplify that given fraction, or convert the fraction that you've been given into a percentage and so on. So we need to find out. Just looking at one question, then we move on to the question about the probability. So we are having a fraction. We've been given several fractions. I just want to simplify the fraction and convert them to a decimal, and at the same time convert it into percentage. So we have like 3 fractions. The first fraction I have is 10 over 20. The second fraction we are having 21 over 28. Then the third fraction we have is 12 out of 48. So those are the 3 fractions we have. The first task that we are having is to simplify the given fraction. Like in the first case, if I need to simplify, then it is simple, my zeros cancel out, then I'm left with the fraction as 1 over 2. So if I've simplified the fraction 10 over 20, and it is now 1 over 2. If I have to convert the 1 over 2 into a decimal, then it means 1 over 2 converted to a decimal will simply be 0.5 as a decimal. Then finally, as a percentage, 0.5 we simply multiply by 100, and we get that as a percentage we will have 50%. So I've expressed 10 over 20 as a fraction in its simplest form. I've expressed it as a decimal and at the same time as a percentage. We are having 21 over 28. So 21 out of 28, then we have 7 into 21, that is 3. 7 into 28 is 4. So 3 divided by 4 is the fraction in its simplest form. Then we go ahead and get the decimal of 3 over 4. 3 over 4 as a decimal will simply be 0.75. Then as a percentage, then we multiply by 100 and get 75% as a percentage. 12 over 48. So 12 over 48, 12 into 12 once, 12 into 48, that is 4. We are having 1 over 4 as the fraction in its simplest form. Converting 1 over 4 to decimal, then we have 0.25. Then as a percentage, we are having 25%. So that is just examples of fractions, decimals, and percentages that we have. So we are supposed to use these in describing the chances, the chances of events that we are going to be having. What chances are there for those events to take place? So example of a question that requires us to use the percentages, fractions, and decimals in describing a chance is the following. So the question is, we fill, for each of the sentences below, fill the gap with appropriate fraction or percentage. So the first question, an event has an even chance of occurring if that portion of the spinner occupies. So we are having even chances. This is the word that is guiding us, that it has an even chance of occurring. And remember, we are filling it with an appropriate fraction or percentage. So if the event has an even chance of occurring, we've already said an event that has even chance of occurring means that it has equal opportunities for it to occur. So that means that this event, if it has an even chance of occurring, then we say that the portion of that spinner occupies 50% of the total area. Or if you don't want to use percentage, then as a fraction, then we say it is a half of the total area. The second question. So the next question is talking about an event that is impossible occupies dash of the total area. So this is an event that is impossible. So impossible, it means there are no chances of it occurring. So since there are no chances of this event occurring, then we say it occupies 0% of the total area. So we are talking about an event that is unlikely to occur. Then this event will occupy more than, so this event is unlikely to occur. It means there is possibility of it occurring. So it means that there is no possibility of it being 0. So it cannot be below 0. It means that it is 0 and above. So this means that it occupies more than 0%, but it is less than. So since it is unlikely, it means the possibility of it occurring is minimum. So since it is minimum, then it is less than a half of what is expected. So being less than a half, so it is more than 0%, but less than 50%. 50%. So an unlikely event is more than 0% but less than 50%. Then finally, we have an event So an event will be likely. When we are talking about a likely event, then we say that it has a higher chance of it occurring. So event is likely if it occupies more than 50% of the total area. So if it will occupy more than 50% of the total area, then we will say that this event is a likely event. So from this statement, from the statements we've just looked at, we discover that probability has a range, or the chance of an event happening lies between, so we find that the chance of an event happening, chance of a probability will lie between 0 and 1 if it is expressed as a fraction or a decimal. But if it is expressed as a percentage, then we are having that it will lie between 0% and 100%. So we find that if it is 0%, then that event is impossible. If it is less than 50, then it is an unlikely event. If it is more than 50, then it is a likely event. But if it is 100% or 1, then we say that this is a sure event or a certain event. So where you are sure it is 100, where you are sure that it is going to happen, it is 100%. Where you are sure it is not going to happen, it is 0. Where you are sure, where you are not sure, in between, so it is less than 50, we are saying it is unlikely. If it is more than 50, then it is a likely event. So this is where the range of probability lies. And we've already said that probability can be expressed in the 3 ways. It can either be expressed as a fraction, it can either be expressed as a decimal, and it can either be expressed as a percentage. So it doesn't matter in what form you're going to express, be it a fraction, be it a decimal, be it a percentage, then it is okay in expressing whatever probability that you are looking at. So just a question to deal with in this case so that we get to express the probabilities that we have in the given values. So example of questions to deal with. So let us answer the first 2 questions first, then we'll continue with the other questions. We are having to consider a set of these numbers, that is 4, 2, 6, 5, 9. So we are being asked how many numbers are in this set. So you just simply count how many numbers we have. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you get that we have a total of 5 numbers in that given set. How many numbers are even? We've already described an even number as a number that is simply divided by 2. So any number that is fully divided by 2, we have 4, 2, and 6. So we get the numbers that are even in this case out of the set are 3 numbers. Then the next question, so the question we are having, if a number is picked randomly from the set of numbers that are here, what is the probability that the number picked is even? So we've already looked at the total numbers that we have in this set. We have a total of 5 numbers. Then the number of even numbers we had were 3. So even numbers in this case, probability of picking even, we already said getting probability is simply the number of favorable outcomes over the total outcomes. So favorable outcomes, the outcomes that will favor even numbers in this case are 3. Then the total number of outcomes we have is 5. So probability of getting an even number or probability of picking an even number, we have 3 even numbers over the total, which is 5. So we get that the probability of getting an even number will simply be 3 over 5. Then maybe one last question on the same. So we are to find the fraction of the set of numbers that is odd. So odd numbers, odd numbers, we are having the numbers that are left, that is 5 and 9. So we have 5 and 9 as the odd numbers that are available in this set of numbers. So then it means the odd numbers that we have, so probability of getting an odd number or picking an odd number from this set of questions is 2. Then the total number of numbers we have in that set is 5. So we get that probability of getting an odd number is 2 over 5. So having the probability of getting the odd number as 2 over 5. Then we discover something. When we were describing the terms used in probability, we talked about complementary events. And we said that with complementary events, then if one of the events occurs, the other event does not occur. So we are having even numbers, then the odd numbers were left out. So we find that when we take the probability of the odd number, we add on the probability we had obtained for the even number. So the probability of even number plus the probability of the odd number, then we are having 3 over 5 plus 2 over 5. Then the answer is simply 5 over 5. So what does it mean? That when you add complementary events, your answer is 1. So it should add up to 1. So it simply brings us to the conclusion about the probability, the chances of a probability happening. So this is what happens, that if you are having a chance of a event happening, we add the chance of that event not happening. We should get 1. So this is probability, chance of event happening. Then this one is chance of event not happening. So when you have a chance of an event happening and a chance of an event not happening, we add the 2 events, then our answer should be 1. With that, we mark the end of today's lesson. We shall continue with more examples and the other part of probability in our next lesson. Thank you.